What's going on, golf addicts? DB here, RBC Heritage at Harbour Town in Hilton Head. Very familiar with this place. We're talking two sleepers, okay? Both guys in the 6K range on DraftKings. Long shots for a top 20, really long shots for an outright. An outright, I think, would be ill-advised, but I do believe that there is some good upside for these guys. In particular, one I think could give you a top 10 finish coming out of the 6K range and probably 3% owned or less. I'll save him for last. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So RBC Heritage, it is one of those courses where Harbour Town does ask you normally experience helps. Experience matters a little bit around Harbour Town. And I got one guy that's got a ton of experience and one guy that doesn't really. So, but he's doing other things better. So I'll start with the first one. He's got a ton of experience. Pat mentioned him on the show in our 6K draft last night. And I wasn't much of a fan. Okay. But then I started digging in a little bit to the 6K players this week. And I was like, maybe Pat was right. Maybe Patrick H. Perry was actually right about something. Because he damn sure wasn't right about Rory McIlroy last week. You know who was? This guy. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I will not rub that in anymore. The player that I'm talking about, I'm going to pull up my screen, show you what I'm looking at here on Fantasy National, is a Clemson. Is it a Clemson alumni? Okay, a lot of Clemson players are familiar with Harbour Town. It's Lucas Glover. And I know it's boring. I know. You're like, bleh, I don't want to put Lucas Glover in my lineup. Bleh. Finger down my throat. Make me gag. I want some young hotshot, with jogger pants and maybe his tuxedo stripe going down the side, like Victor Hovland. That's what I want, DB. I don't want Lucas Glover, Well, why do I want Lucas Glover? Team no putt. I get it. Lucas Glover, 6,600 plus 950 is the best number on FanDuel for a top 20. Whoa. But I can pretty safely tell you that Lucas Glover's probably going to fall in that 3% range, maybe even less. All right, but let's take a look at what we're seeing with Lucas Glover. I'm going to share my screen, and I'll see if I can convince you. I may not be able to, but if I can't, then we'll move on to the next guy. Right? Yeah. So the first thing I want to look at is proximity. Okay. Now, a lot of people think of Harbour Town a little bit shorter of a course by PGA Tour standards, but obviously there's a lot of clubbing down off the tee because of the angles, because of the fairways, because you have to be on the proper side of the hole. We talked about it on the show last night. Number one is a great example. I remember when I played from the tips and I had a bet with Kevin Kisner on how low I would go. I hit a 2-iron off number one, and I flushed it with like a little baby draw. Started it on the center, baby draw, 240, 250 down the fairway, and I was dead. Because you have to be on the right side of the fairway. I was in the fairway, like middle left of the fairway, dead on arrival. So I do think we've got to remember that there's a lot of 150 to 200 yard shots at this golf course. And look at the proximity ranges here for Lucas, like pretty solid. Look at long term and short term. This is key. In these proximity buckets, Lucas Glover is a stud. He's just not a stud in other places. But even recently, among some missed cuts, among not a whole lot of high finishes, he gained strokes from those buckets, and that is muy importante. All right, let's look at some strokes gain data on Lucas Glover. By the way, I believe the numbers last year. So for 2022. The average number of shots between 175 and 200 yards was 26%, which was a heck of a lot higher than the average PGA Tour course. In 2021, it was 27%. Last 2 years, 27% of iron shots, approach shots coming from 175 to 200. That is the biggest bucket at Harbour Town. So that is going to be key, and that's something that we're going to keep looking at with our next player as well. So, all right, back to Lucas Glover. What's also interesting, he's catching some early steam in an offshore book. I only could find one head-to-head matchup on Lucas Glover, and it's against Patton Kizzire. And they both opened up minus 110, and early, somebody was ready to jump on Lucas Glover. Somebody was like, oh, damn, Sheila, they got Lucas Glover, even with Patton Kizzire. Give me my piggy bank, Sheila. And then, Ron will put down an extra, a couple $100 on Lucas Glover. And now he's minus 125 favorite over Patton Kizzire. Kind of crazy. But so I talked about the iron play. And let's look at this. Obviously, look, Lucas is team no putt. We know that. He's team no putt. Now, the beauty of Harbour Town is, and we'll look at this. The beauty of Harbour Town is you don't have to be a great putter because if you're hitting greens, the greens are really small. And if you're hitting the greens, you're going to have a lot less likely chance of three putting, which is good. So I mean, it's something to know, something to think about. All right, let's look at Lucas Glover. I'm already spending too much time on the guy. Geez, forgive me. Obviously, can gain strokes in some moderate wind conditions, which is probably what we're going to see this week. We're probably not going to get windy AF conditions. But look at the improved around the green play. I think that's interesting. We're seeing a guy having some decent weeks around the green who normally really sucks around the green. He's still doing his same old putting song and dance, but improved around the green play, made cuts at TPC, the Players Championship, as well as Waste Management. So, large, big time elevated events, big time fields. And then even a third place finish at the FedEx St. Jude going back to August. I mean, obviously that's a little further back, but it goes to show you like Lucas is a veteran. He's not afraid of the field. He's not afraid of the big names. He's been there before. If he's got his A game going, he can top 10 this place. Top 20 is probably more likely. Top 30 is really the upside that we're looking at here for Lucas Glover. But look at this, dude. My guy is making his 20th start at the RBC Heritage. 20th. He's only missed 6 cuts. He got a 21st in the COVID year, which was the year that the field was, pretty strong. It was the strongest field they've ever had, with the exception of now this year, because everybody was itching to play. He finished 21st there. 6 top 40s in his last 8 starts at RBC Heritage. And he's got the occasional putting positive, right? And again, it's because of these small greens. If he's hitting the greens, he doesn't have long lag putts he's having to deal with. So I think Lucas Glover is possibly worth a shot in DFS. Maybe a bomb top 20. Probably a safer bet would be a top 40. So check that out. Before we move on to the next play, I do have to show everybody the rebrand of our friends at Front 9 Coffee, front9coffee.com. Good jitters. Oh man, look at the refresh here. Look at the rebrand, and look at this special and limited releases with the Tour Junkies. That's right, my large bucket of nuts, hazelnut blend, Pat's Bump and Run dark espresso blend. Let's just take a look at my large bucket of nuts, shall we? If you go to front9coffee.com, use promo code TJ10, you do get 10% off your entire order on Front 9. You can reuse that code as well. And look, now check this out. You choose your options: ground coffee, whole bean, ground sample, or K cups, people. K cups of my hazelnut blend, $16 now on Front 9 Coffee. It's that easy. Click to add it to your cart. They ship anywhere in the U.S. It's beautiful. It's supporting a small local business right here in Augusta, Georgia, that loves coffee and loves golfers. So give them a shout. Front9coffee.com, promo code TJ10 for 10% off your entire order. All right, next guy, final guy. This guy, I truly believe, could have top 10 upside. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he has top 10 upside at the price of $6,700, and very likely a 3% guy, maybe even less. He hasn't really touched 3% in his last few tournaments. I don't see him getting up there this week, especially because he's never played Harbour Town before. He's never played RBC Heritage before. Has he played Harbour Town? Yes, he has. Have I confirmed that? Yes, I have. University of Alabama boy Lee Hodges is who I'm talking about. 6,700 plus 750 on FanDuel is the best number you can find for Lee Hodges as a top 20 number. So let's pull up old Lee Hodges, shall we? Let me pull up Fantasy National here and show you. I want to start with his proximity numbers as well. Remember that key bucket, the 175 to 200 bucket, and here we are. Like Lee Hodges, not all green, like our boy Lucas Glover, but a lot of green. Long term, short term, he's at least gaining strokes on the field. Look at recent play here. These last 3 events. I mean, then this one's a miscut. This one's almost a DFL. But look at that. Lee Hodges can hit the mid and long irons pretty dang good. Now let's flip over to his strokes gain categories and take a look at that. And I'll show you some other interesting tidbits about old Lee. Now, he's not near as bad a putter as Lucas Glover on Bermuda. Does gain strokes in windy conditions, moderate conditions. We like to see that. And look at this. Look, I want to talk about some upside strong finishes for Lee, because he's not going to have the RBC Heritage course history narrative working in his favor. He's coming off a 6th place finish at Valero, which is fantastic, where he gained almost 4 strokes on approach. That's great. But let's talk about some upside finishes, and I want to start. I'll go back to like Lucas Glover last August at the FedEx St. Jude. I mean, think of the FedEx St. Jude is the top 125. I think that's the first playoff event. That is a really strong field. at TPC Southwind, I believe. Finishes 13th there. Big names there. CJ Cup in the fall, in October, 7th. A lot of big names there as well. Finishes 7th. Here's an elevated event just this year. 18th place at the Genesis at Riviera. Then a nice finish at the Honda, even though that wasn't a strong field, and another nice finish at Valero, even though that wasn't a very strong field. So I do believe that Lee Hodges gives you some true upside into I like it. I think the guy's got some chops. I think the long iron play, mid iron play is going to help him a ton. University of Alabama boy, very comfy in southern Bermuda conditions. So I think Lee Hodges is worth a stab. I think Lucas Glover's worth a stab. Neither of them feel super sexy. I get it. Listen, there's a lot of names at 6,900 that I really do like. But if if you're mass entering some tournaments or you want to get some leverage or whatever, I definitely think you're going to get a ton of leverage with these two. I think Lee's probably my favorite. I like the upside of Lee a little more, but I think both are interesting options, and I think both could help you get that 6 of 6 through the cut with some upside. So thanks for watching the video. Check out front9coffee.com, promo code TJ10. Check out the new redesign. Get 10% off your order. Ship it to a family member or a friend, birthday, whatever. It's coffee for golfers right here in Augusta, Georgia. Thanks for watching. Click the like, subscribe, and let's have a day. See ya.